episode of the ADHDads. I'm your host, JJ.
And I'm CJ.
Hey, Colton, how's it going, man? I hear California's got some things going on. How you doing over there?
Oh, yeah, we just survived Hurricane Hillary here. So, we had water leaking through our walls and our floorboards, and our garage got flooded, and California was not ready for this hurricane as the first one we had in like 85 years. So it was fun, man. Lots of family game nights and playing in the rain and all that good stuff to keep us busy. How was your weekend, brother?
Everybody has a backyard pool now there. Yeah, it was going pretty good. I actually was out of state last week and came back and had a delayed flight and picked up Kiddo, and Kiddo was absolutely magnificent with his first day with me again. And I was very proud of him. We went to the pool and he was teaching kids about dinosaurs and stuff, whether they wanted to hear about it or not. He was letting them know, and it was magnificent. So yeah, so it was pretty good last week, getting out of state and just enjoying the humidity of the Midwest, and now back in the high desert, so dry, and living it up. Yeah. But yeah, today we've got a special guest on. Hi, Shell. How are you today?
I am just great. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to chatting with the dads.
Yeah, Shell is a career coach, and she also helps people with ADHD kind of navigate those career choices. She has ADHD herself. She's been on podcasts, lots of interviews. She's got some really great stuff to say, and you guys know from previous episodes that, I'm always interested in navigating these career choices, especially when it comes to some neurodivergent stuff.
Got kicked off for a second there. That was an interesting start.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shell, you've apparently you've helped over, 700 people over the last 30 years?
Oh, that was, I kept it small, much more than that. Much more than that. But yeah. I have been doing this work since, I don't even want to say how long it's been so long, the 80s. So I started working, I was trained by Richard Bolles in 1991. That's how long I've been doing this process, and I've never stopped. And since then, I've tweaked it for when I got my own diagnosis very, very, very late in life. It was about 15 years ago. And
interesting.
Yeah, like I went through, luckily I was in the right career. But I always tell people, when I went off track and did something else, that's when the ADHD really blew up on me, which only goes to show that when you're in the right career, it doesn't blow up on you. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I think you said something about that your work is synonymous with joy, which to me sounds like you have found that great path, and it's something that you don't see yourself ever stopping.
No, I could have retired a while ago, and I still love it. And now I'm putting everything into a book, which I'll tell you about later on, but I'm excited about that too. And finally, it's kind of a legacy for me. It's a way for me to get the word out and help people sort of navigate this thing. So
I'm curious, what was it for you that made you want to go get the diagnosis, or what was the tipping point in your life that made you seek that out?
Well, what it was I was in the wrong career. And it wasn't really a career. It was a business that I kind of got albatrossed to, became my albatross. I had founded a company called Kids Art, a children's art franchise. And I was not even taking my own advice when I did it, because now I tell people there's got to be a beginning, middle, and end. There's got to be an exit strategy. And I did it, I got stuck into the day-to-day, and anyone with ADHD who is an entrepreneur knows that the fun part is in the beginning, right? Creating it, pulling everyone together, became a franchise system. It was international. We were in like 15 countries and 39 states. I mean, it was very successful. It still is going. Luckily, one of our early franchisees took it over. However, it's nothing like, when I was in it. And I know that I was partially why it was successful, because I was very passionate about it. I could really bring people together on it. But I really, really began to hate it um, when it was the day to day. And I mean, hey, I mean, it was, when I say albatross, it was such a horrible feeling of having to spend time doing something I wasn't no longer passionate about. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't using the skills I love to use. I wasn't doing any, sorry, I wasn't doing any of the stuff that I really wanted to do in my work. And I wasn't even following my own path that I taught other people to use, because I didn't see a way out of it. And when it finally hit bottom with all the people, I just started disconnecting kind of, and it became a very difficult situation for me and the other people. And I ended up leaving on not very good terms. And it was pretty terrible experience. It was traumatizing at the time. And that was when I really said, what is going on with me? Because my ADHD was undiagnosed at the time. So I was not really thinking about how I was impacting people, what I was, how I was communicating, how I wasn't, it was unmanaged. It was me just kind of going off the rails a lot of the time. And that, probably hurt some people, probably was not a good thing. But when I finally realized there's something going on, that's when I got the diagnosis. But before, let me just tell this little quick story. 2 years before that, I had a friend who had sent me a book on ADHD, who was a therapist. Right. So she never came out and said, I think you have ADHD. She just sent me the book. Right. Her son had ADHD, and, she knew what the characteristics were. So I took that book and I promptly shoved it in the drawer, because I thought, who are you? What? I was just I just couldn't accept it at all. It was not something that was even in my radar, so to speak. 2 years later, I had moved from that place, and I put that book on a bookshelf, and I literally went crawling over to the bookshelf and grabbed that book. And then I started actually reading it. And then all the checklist stuff, right? You've all been through the checklists, if you know what I'm talking about. And 3/4, if not more, of the characteristics.
Oh, I have that. That sounds like me.
Is
this a horoscope reading or an ADHD book?
Yeah. So that was kind of how it happened. Then I went and got an official diagnosis. And it was like I walked in the door, and it was a nurse practitioner who had this huge practice of ADHD people. And she knew, like, without even me doing anything, that I had it. She goes, oh yeah, you're off the charts. So I said, okay. And I was kind of like dumbfounded driving home, I remember. And,
they said that to me too when I got diagnosed. I said, but you guys only ran one test. Isn't there like 13 others?
That was one to know one. Check on the checklist.
Yeah. Now you can probably tell when a person has ADHD without even no checklist, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was at that point that I started working with career people again, because I had put that down for quite a while. And I had my first client that I had worked with, coming back to the field, and it was like this weight was lifted off my shoulder. I felt lighter. I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm home. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Where have I been all my life? So that was kind of how I came back to it, and have been going full force ever since. So. I'm
curious if this is too personal of a question. Stop me now. But I am curious, like, what did treatment look like for you? Did you kind of explore some like behavior therapy kind of avenues, or are you on medication? Does that help you in your life? Or again, if this is too personal, we can stay away from this. But I'm just curious.
No, I don't mind. I don't take medication. I tried everything, and I can't take stimulants, and non-stimulants don't work for me. I have a really strong reaction to them. So it really freaked me out when I took them. I was not at
Mm,
all. Some people have this great experience. For me, it was awful. Uh,
yeah.
and I know everybody's different. Everyone's, makeup is different. I drink a
Yeah.
lot of
And see,
coffee.
I guess that's the point that I want to get to too is, that everybody's story is different, because everybody seems to have different ways of managing it or accepting it or
Yeah.
going forward from a diagnosis. And it seems to be different for everybody. I really haven't talked to, gotten enough of a sample size to be like, well, this is the fix all, and
Yeah.
I don't think that exists. Everybody's got a different technique for dealing with it or different tools that help them. So I think that, again, for our listeners, like, I think that's an important thing to take from these conversations every time I ask that question. Like, it's really about like biofeedback, about what listening to yourself, your body, your mind, and really being mindful and present with those feelings so that what does work and what doesn't and what may be harmful or an obstacle that you now have to work around.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and I
a
think
lot of it is just learning how to manage. Everybody has a different way of managing, and I one of the ways I manage is by doing the things that I enjoy and saying no to a lot of stuff that I don't, because I know if I say yes to things that I should be saying no to, that it's not going to be good for me or other people, that I can not be my best self, so to speak, right? But being in the right career actually does minimize characteristics. It really does. And I try and tell people that it's hard for them to sort of grasp it if they're in the wrong career, basically. But having the right work environment and all the things that make up that will minimize those characteristics a lot. So at
I
the
was
time,
gonna
maybe not off work, but during work. Yeah.
I was going to say that, just your testimony to finding your true calling, your career path has led you to that place where your superpowers, as we often say in ADHD, where that really shines. And it's a challenge for us to have to put up with the other things sometimes. And, my kiddo's in school, and there's a time where they go outside and they play or they have art, and he's like, yeah, I love to do these things. Oh, wait, now I need to sit down and do math? What, are you insane? I have no interest in this area. How am I supposed to sit still and enjoy this when I've already told you I hate it? And therefore, he's actually said to me on various occasions that perhaps I need to have my medication because I know that I'm going to struggle in these areas. He said it in different words, but I know what he's trying to tell me. He's like, I know what I don't like, and I know what I like. And now you're telling me to do both. Right. And when I don't want to do this one thing, I need my medication in order to just like somehow find a path through it, which is tough to kind of just, accept as a parent. Like we realize, okay, perhaps these systems that are designed to educate our kids are set up in a certain way to hopefully push them toward success, but we're also denying them their opportunity to really focus on the areas of success that they've already determined for themselves.
Yeah, especially if that doesn't match up with what the world out there is trying to kind of squeeze the little box they're trying to squeeze them into. It's tough. It really is tough. And we do need and want things differently. When I was a kid, I'm inattentive ADHD. So when I was a kid, like a lot of girls are kind of swept under the carpet because we don't make any noise. We don't act out, but we doodle a lot. I was like a master doodler, and I still to this day don't know how I got through high school. And yet I graduated okay. They passed me and I got fairly decent grades, but I don't know how that happened. Seriously, I don't remember learning very much because I was never taught to in a way that got my attention or made me want to, sit up and go, ooh, what's that? So if teachers aren't aware of how to work with neurodiverse populations, they could be, so many kids are just kind of swept under the rug, especially, like I said, girls like me with inattentive. We're the quiet ones. We're not the ones that jump out of our seats and are causing havoc in the classroom. That's not us. So, and it could be males have inattentive as well. My son is that way. He has inattentive, and he's really able to focus big time on what he wants. And it's when you enjoy doing something, or when you like what you're doing, your attention is all there. It's all there. So yeah,
that's our oldest. She's a doodler. She comes home with about 25 drawings every day from school, and her teachers kind of had know the rhythm, let her do it, because that's where she's most focused and paying attention is when she's got those crayons and that paper out. And if you take that away from her, that's when disruption and the hyperactivity start coming in, and she starts getting disruptive. So I think that everybody's kind of learned to, let Naomi do her thing, and will still pay attention if you let her have that. Somehow she's able to tune into those two frequencies at once. Yeah. But I can see how that can be confusing to a lot of educators, and I was the same way too.
We can focus on more than one thing. We can kind of hear what's going on and still kind of stay focused in on something that we're interested in as well.
I think one thing that I've heard more often than not with my own situation, and then even my kiddo situation, is that one teacher might suggest, wow, your kiddo is just, doing amazing work, has so much attention to detail, really just, excels in this area. And then the other teacher says, wait, what? That's not at all what's going on in this classroom. I remember I actually had a teacher stop class and get really upset at me in high school. And then he asked me a question. I said, yeah, I just don't get it, and I'm not interested. And he just stops in his tracks and he says, oh, because he realized he's dealing with somebody who's not in his area of interest, and is being completely honest about it, and therefore is just telling you like it is. I don't have any, agenda against your classroom. This is just my world. And I'm trying to get through to the next hour here.
That's so great that you were able to say that. Seriously. I mean, that probably shifted his perception like a million times over to hear something like that.
Yeah, he probably up to that point was like, this kid is impossible. And I was like, well, I'm possible in other areas. So, I'll just remind you of that.
Oh, man, it's too bad teachers wouldn't embrace something like that. That would be a really good thing for teachers to actually listen to their students, tell them what they like and what they don't like.
I'm curious about that with teachers, and then as we grow older, trying to identify our calling, sometimes I do believe it does get to the point where we put the pressures on ourselves to figure out this calling, because we haven't had necessarily a hand to walk with us in those moments when we're younger. And honestly, it's sometimes a little scary looking at that as a parent now, to see my child identify that, and be able to express that to me, but then still have to go off and say, I have to get through these other things, and feel that anxiety and everything that goes with the fact that I'm just trying to manage my symptoms when I know my symptoms essentially flare up when I'm not wanting to do what I'm told to do.
Yes, it's a tough one. It's a fine line we walk, but at least the knowledge is there. In my day, the word ADHD was not even invented. I mean, that whole term. Yeah. So nobody was looking at any of it. It was just either you did it or you didn't. That was it.
Yeah, and I find it like this topic of career navigation is pretty piques my interest, especially in the world of ADHD, because, we put so much pressure on kids to figure out what is it that you want to do with the rest of your lives, right? Yeah. And you got to get it figured out by the time you're 18. You got to spend the next 4-8 years in a higher education institute studying that one thing. And if you don't like that one thing, well, you've now wasted your parents' money or gone into student loan debt, or have all of these big consequences for wanting to switch the career or deciding you don't like it.
Oh, you're
So a
speaking
lot
my
of
language, CJ.
right.
You're
And this
speaking my
isn't just for
language.
I feel that this is prevalent in the neurodivergent world of ADHD or autism or some of these neurodivergent conditions where we are all kind of grasping for the next thing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I don't like this, so let's go to this. What I don't like that, let's go back to this. And now we again are in this situation with these high stake consequences of if we don't like something, but we're just pigeonholed into it, So, and I think again, that goes for people without neurodivergence, but ever more so when we have that distracted mind that wants stimulation, the next thing, where we go, how do we get the interest peaked and the motivation and the inspiration to get through these next 4 years? So like, what kind of questions are we asking our kids? What kind of questions are you asking your clients to help navigate this, to identify what's going to give us purpose, motivation, and interest for the next 4 to 60 years of our life?
Well, let me put it this way. It's a nuanced process. And there is no roadmap that anyone is given to do it. I think that's why I kind of created the roadmap for ADHD people based on, I don't know if I told you I was trained by Richard Bolles, who wrote What Color's Your Parachute. He started to do that. He did that with that book. I think when I went through the training with him, and I was trained by him, I realized that I was undiagnosed at the time. But later on, I realized that the reason I really took to that process was because it spoke to how my brain works. And I don't do well with assessments. I don't I don't believe in just answering a bunch of questions that are similar to what other people answer and then having them spit out some information that is the top 10 ADHD careers or whatever, or here's what you should be looking at, because it's very hit or miss. It doesn't take the whole person into consideration, and it compares your answers to other people. So you need to go through your own deep dive. And you need to be taught how to do this in high school. And I remember battling, because I was doing this work when my son was in high school, and I went to try and present this to the PTA as something I could offer the kids. And they had a career center there, and they stood there with their arms crossed, like, who are you? Oh, okay, this is only my life's work. But, we're career people too. We just sit you down in front of a computer and we have you go through all the questions and the computer programs or whatever, and boom, you're done. No, you're not done. So there really should be a mandatory class similar to what I do that's offered in all high schools and starting in grammar school on some level, elementary school. And you can tell how old I am by saying grammar school. Anyway, I'm giving myself away here. Anyway, yeah, and it needs to start early. The self-discovery process needs to start early, and it needs to be done in a very structured kind of way. Not by structured, I mean loose structure, but definitely a structure of some kind where you answer certain questions for yourself about, and I can tell you about, a little bit about the process that I use, the things that we look at. And you're always answering those questions and you're tweaking them as you're going along, and you're starting to discover more and more about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Very much what doesn't work for you is as important as what does. Because how many times, you said it perfectly, you're stuck in these majors, then you're stuck in a job, eventually stuck in a job with all the student debt. And then these are the people I work with, they come and they're like, I graduated. Some people I have had double PhDs. I've had people in medical school, doctors who are practicing physicians. I've had obviously a lot of lawyers, accountants, all the ones that you go to school to become very specifically. But with ADHD, that nuance did not come into it. So they ended up in situations where they could work, but they were very miserable in those situations. And the ADHD factor was not taken into account. So there's so many aspects of ADHD for ADHD people. It has to, we have to get really detailed about what those things are. We really have to break it down. There's no other way. You need a structure and you need to break it down. So
this is really hitting home for me because, you know, one of the things that I've really noticed throughout my own neurodivergent journey and watching my kid go through it is, you know, those tests that we do take to analyze if we have ADHD or not are very subjective. In am I using that word right, JJ? I need JJ as my grammar coach sometimes to point me in the right direction. You know. But there's just so black and white, you know. We asked our kids like, well, do you strongly agree or strongly disagree that you do this, you know? And one of the things that I notice about talking to my daughter is that she can find the loopholes, man. She can personalize her experience to any generic question and be like, well, I strongly agree in this scenario, and I strongly disagree if this were to happen. So she has a hard time finding that answer because she has such a like narrow personal perspective of the world and how she analyzes it and how she... Did I lose you guys again? Can you hear me?
Oh, you're back, shoot.
You were frozen. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know
what's... Back into what
This is what I was worried about with this hurricane, because it seems I have been getting alerts this whole recording about like your video isn't working, your sound stopped working.
You're so clear, JJ.
Oh no!
I can see this little fuzziness with CJ. There you go. Are you there?
Oh man, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Our Wi-Fi, the storm, guys. This is what I was worried about happening with the Wi-Fi in the storm.
Wi-Fi, yeah, I totally get it. The thing that is so beautiful about what you said about your daughter is that she's was obviously given permission to see between the cracks, you know, to be able to really dig in and answer things specifically for herself, which is exactly what most adults who come to me were never able to do. They didn't have, for some reason, they weren't able to, they had to listen to everybody else. They had all the voices telling them and societal voices telling them, you know, this is what you should do. You should pick this and then you'll get a job in this and then it's going to work out just fine. You've got to be able to, it's a nuanced process. And that's why I never give pick this or this answers. There are some parts of it, but I always give lots and lots of other possibilities. Like you need to be able to really, it's just the opposite in the process I use. It's like you have to be able to think as globally as possible about what is out there for you within a process that we do that makes it safe to just explore, right? Without the voices of, is this okay? Is this not okay? What if I answer this way? Will I make enough money at this thing? That, you know, this is what a lot of the people I work with are plagued with, are all these outside influences, societal influences that are speaking to them all the time. Bolles called this the safekeeping self, the part of you that says, I won't, I can't, I shouldn't. Yes, but what about this? And what about that? And that's what we battle against the whole time. I shouldn't say battle. I try and support them to really think beyond that and to recognize when it's happening. Because the first recognition and sign of noticing how you're trying to game the system, I call it. You can't rig it. You can't game it. It really has to be authentic from you. It has to be your truth. And if you're not willing to commit to what your truth is, you're not going to get it's not going to come out the way it needs to come out for you. It's not going to work. So that's what we deal with a lot. And that is what people with ADHD and neurotypical people deal with as well. Probably even more so in a lot of ways, because neurotypical people can actually work in jobs they don't like for years. And so can people with ADHD up to a point until it doesn't work anymore. Right.
Yeah, I'm afraid to chime in here in case my Wi-Fi goes out again, but I just really want to just echo what you said and agree with it, because yeah, that's really been the secret sauce in my journey and helping my daughter with it. It's not like how can I implement all of this information that I've learned about ADHD to make her better?
Mm-hmm.
It's how can I keep this information in the back of my mind, but still ask her the right questions to help to give her those tools. And it's really personalized, like we were saying at the beginning of this episode, whether medication works or not. This is an individual journey that we really need to get personal with our kids and what they need and what resonates with them, and how and use that to tailor a program and structure that is specifically for them or us or the individual with neurodivergent conditions, because it is it's not what kind of tools can you give neurodivergent people, it's what kind of questions can you ask to find out what the tools are that will help them.
Yeah. Well, I have over the years developed those tools for what I do. And I offer a few of them, and some work and some don't. And that's what I say, is that these are the tools that I want you to try out and use, and you will find the ones that work for you. And as you're going through it, the cream will rise to the top. That's the term I use. The things organically, it will become clear that, oh, I guess I've always thought about this thing, but I've never really thought about it seriously. And now maybe I need to look at, I put it in the back of my mind because I didn't think I could make money at it, or I didn't think I could, it would even work for me or even existed on some level. But what they find out is that there's always a way to get started, and it doesn't have to be 100% in the beginning. It can be 65%, which is usually 100% better than what they've had, right? Just to know that they are on the right track. They are just starting to get there. But yeah, what I'm very proud of in having done this work for the past 13 years is having developed something for ADHD people that is nuanced like that does allow them to ask the questions and to try different methods to see what works and what doesn't work. One or two of them always work. Something always works with this. Some things don't. And that's fine. And I say, look, just because you may not have enjoyed this particular exercise or process doesn't mean there aren't other ways to get this information. And I'll bring them back to, they've written stories. They're looking at the skills they really enjoy using. There's just ways to bring it back to, here's what you're repeatedly saying over and over again. This information keeps coming up. So pay attention to what keeps coming up for you over and over again.
Do you find with your clients or during this journey, maybe a little bit of impulsivity control? I guess more of the question is like, do your clients come to you after they've left the job and they're looking for the next thing, or do they come to you beforehand and they're trying to strategize and plan it out? And do you see a lot of people, again, like with that kind of impulsivity aspect of it, that maybe, I want to get out of this, or kind of flip flop, or decide, well, I left the last job, I need something now, I'm hiring you, and where do I go from here? Or I don't know.
All of the above.
I'm just kind of curious what that looks like.
All of the above. However, I do tell people, do not join my masterclass or work with me. I will not work with you if you are in what I call job beggar position. Like, you have to find something now. In that case, I say, find a means to an end position that you're not going to stay at for a while, but you can tolerate to pay the bills if that's what you have to do. But you need to have time to do this process and not be in that desperation mode. It really needs, because you need to give it that air, that space to do it. our brains just need it. We need to relax with this stuff and not feel like, if I don't answer this immediately, if I don't get this information right away, I'm going to explode or whatever. Life's going to crumble around me. Sometimes that happens. In the beginning, I did have a few people like that, and I just realized I can't work with people like that, realistically in doing this process. I just cannot. But again, I don't ignore the fact that people have to make money. But I think knowing that it's a means to an end versus something that you feel like you might get stuck in for the rest of your life helps, right? It's a means to an end. And that is, there's even a way to sort of get a means to an end job and look at some of the things that will allow our brains to breathe a little bit in that process. And part of it is just knowing that you're going to be exploring areas that are really going to work for you. And then I work with people who are in those jobs now, right? And they're going through the process and they don't feel, they end up, like I said, not feeling like they're stuck in that other position, that there are other things out there for them. As soon as they start speaking with people who are doing things that are interested, the same interests in the same things that they are, and realize that, yeah, there are ways to really create something for yourself in a way that is not black and white, like we're just taught to do from a young age. Like, you can do this thing or this thing. No, that's not how it works. There's a lot of nuance in there.
Yeah.
And
I call them burner jobs. You and I were talking about, I've been in film and television here for the last 17 years. And with a film career in film and television, it's a lot of feast or famine, Shell. You're working when you got a job.
What do you do when you get that, when you're in that famine position?
Exactly.
Do you plan ahead? How do you deal with that? I think that's...
just listening to you talk, I'm just kind of thinking of my own experience and what a unique position I was in because, it was always going from job to job to job to job to job. Ever since I moved out to LA, it's always been a kind of scarcity mindset with career opportunities and, well, what's next? I got to go here. I got to make money because in film and television, you're not working for a company for years and you're not on a payroll. It's like, all right, you got a job for the next 5-6 months as we film this season of the television show. And when that's done, you're looking for the next job to hop onto. And, when you're in it, when you're feasting, it's, 70 hours a week, 6-7 days a week. And when you're famining, you cannot work for months at a time.
Yeah.
So I've had jobs and careers from everything from bartenders to waiters to valet to corporate gigs to, temp jobs to fast food to retail and, everything in between. And it has been a very stressful lifestyle in the sense of what am I going to do next? Oh, where do I go? But it also, on the flip side, has also kind of ingrained this, resiliency about me. And, that also feels normal in getting the resume updated and applying and going to the interview process. I feel that feels very familiar to me and very at home to me in a sense, and maybe my ADHD has helped me along that process, that need the next thing, the looking for the next stimulant, trying different things out. I've had a lot of experience in figuring out what I do and don't like. And I feel very fortunate in that aspect because not a lot of people have that opportunity in their career and they are pigeonholed into a certain thing and feel like they have to sacrifice certain, stimulants, motivations, and happiness to stay in there or to maintain the means and the end aspect. So it's just interesting. And I'm curious, like, what does your process look like when you're going through this with your clients and asking these questions to help them develop what's next?
Well, we use a workbook for one thing. That helps.
Yeah, great.
And we use a process that Bolles developed, but I've tweaked over the past years for people with ADHD. So the basic process is identifying all the areas that would make up your ideal work. I mean, you have to get to the ideal to start bringing it into possibilities. So what are the skills you love, the people you enjoy working with, the characteristics of the people you enjoy working with, the working conditions, which is a huge part of it, because we're very quirky in a lot of ways about the kind of conditions that we need to be working in order to be as productive and fulfilled as we need to be. So we break it down a lot, that part of it. And then we look at industries, we look at special knowledges, things that you enjoyed doing, or maybe things that you hadn't thought about for years, but that you really love doing for quite a while, off and on, maybe. And then those things really get kind of put into like a preference position, where these are the preferred areas that I want to look at. And then you look at your salary and rewards, the things that are important to you in terms of rewards, non-paid rewards. And what is your base salary like? And I always say a range of some kind. And then with no top, right? You don't want to limit yourself there. And then the last piece is life purpose. Like everything that you've done up to this point kind of leads you in that direction of this is what I'm here for. This is why this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's generally around helping other people or bringing something positive to the planet. We all have that. All of us have something to bring. But it's discovering what that personal thing is for you. And it comes about in the process of doing this work, because you're really digging in and you're saying, yeah, with ADHD, it's got to come easily. It can't be hard and difficult. And I don't believe in quote unquote hard work. I believe in work that is maybe challenging in a way that is exciting, but it's work that's expansive, work that energizes you, makes you feel that wind beneath your wings. You know what I mean? That little that pushes you to keep wanting to do more of it. And it starts with like a foundational, maybe industry. You're in arts and entertainment, for one thing. That would be your industry. But you can branch out into so many different things. And the branches are where our ADHD circuits kind of come into play. Like, what is the next thing that we're really attracted to within that field, right? So you identify what your field is that your life is supposed to be kind of rooted in, if that makes sense. Mine is rooted in education. Like everything I do is about educating. So it doesn't even matter what I do, as long as it's something that is educated, uplifting, inspiring, along the lines of what I enjoy teaching and providing. And that's taken me into so many different directions, so many. And so that is the key. There has to be a place for you to get rooted, knowledge of what is most important to you in all these different aspects, and starting to pull it together like a detective. I always say you got to put on kind of your detective hat, smoke your pipe or whatever, and really start making those connections. And so it is about making connections. And we're really good at that. Our ADHD brains, we're good, and we like doing that kind of stuff. We like solving puzzles. We like problem solving, thinking big picture. What's next? Like, how can I move beyond this thing that I'm doing? Like, how can I break out and make it even bigger? That's how I am anyway. I'm describing myself more than anything. But I know a lot of people with ADHD, we kind of like doing that kind of stuff. Am I right? We like to think bigger. We like to move. Here you are.
Oh, most definitely.
Here you are podcasting, right? So I always put this to the podcasters, like, you're a psychologist, you're a ADHD coach, you're and here you are podcasting. So your branch has just expanded. You've added another branch to your foundation. And where are you taking that? What's happening after that? And where is that leading you? So you start to feel led once you have that foundation, and it makes it easier to sort of take those next steps, make those next moves. It doesn't become, you've got your roadmap completed, right? So it's like always comparing what you've written down within the context of the work that we do, and making sure that whatever you're looking at aligns with that. It's like, if it's so far off, if what you're looking at is so far off from what that roadmap is that you created, you spent all that time digging into, and you choose to go that route, what do you think's going to happen logically? You're not going to get anywhere. I mean, it's going to probably take you to the same old, right? So that's why you create that roadmap. It's like you have some way to sift and sort opportunities and to branch out. It's really, it's a creative process. It's one that just has always excited me. It's gotten me, I mean, it's kept me going for so many years. I just keep thinking, what else can I do? What else can I do? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I've always felt that way. When I started the franchise system, the first thing I thought of was, we got to be in every state. The next thing I thought of, we've got to be around the world. So immediately my mind broke out into international, and we got into 15 countries. And that was all me just wanting to use my brain the way that works for me the best. It was just me and my brain, right? With the help of a lot of other people, but yeah, you got to have help.
So let me ask you a question. I'm curious about a kind of situational based thing. Let's say somebody's found their dream and they're, thinking big picture and then bigger picture and then bigger picture. And one thing they come back to you with, they say, I love this. I'm on the right path, but oh my God, do I hate having to do the billing. I hate having to do this part of the job. Yeah. And I'm required to do this in order to continue to pursue my dream. But sometimes it's just a thorn in my side and I hate it so much I want to just give up.
So part of the working conditions, JJ, part of the working conditions are that you get the supports and you identify what those supports are. You need a person to do the billing. You need a person. I have a virtual assistant. I'm sure you have people in the background helping you guys out. If I didn't have Anne, my virtual assistant, I would never have been able to create my class. She put all the pieces together, the structure for people going into a password protected area that has all the info, recordings, and all that. You think I could have done that? Oh, hell no. She sends out the emails for me that remind people. She does all. You think I want to do that? I would forget to send out the emails. I do. The one thing I do is my own billing, but that's part of the process of enjoying talking to the people that I'm working with. So somehow it doesn't bother me. I think when you take on the things that you aren't bothered to do at some point, it's like, okay, I can do that one thing. It's not a big deal. And then the things that are a big deal, you find other people to help you. That's the only way. You got to have help and support.
So how does one come up with that support network? How do they identify the areas of need, and then how might one gain the resources to make that a possibility to now create this support network?
Well, first you got to figure out what you need. What do I need help with? And then identify that.
Well, and I think that's a hard question for a lot of people to ask themselves. I think that people ask themselves that question all the time, but they're not really ready to get honest with what the answer is. We all say, oh God, I need something, but we never get to the next step of what that something is, or we do, but then we don't figure out how to get to it. Yeah. We say, well, I need this thing, but I don't know how to get it, or I can't get it, and the buck stops there.
Well, for me, it was, I think when I found Anne, I knew I needed a virtual assistant, but I was very fortunate to have had a referral from an ADHD coach. So you ask for referrals from the right people. You asking for referrals. First, what is it that I need? I need help with this. What's the kind of person, what would their title be, or what would be the type of person that I need? And then who would I ask for referrals, or where would I go to find that person? I use Fiverr a lot. You guys use Fiverr?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've used it many a times, being in the, like I said, entertainment industry and working on indie projects. That's our go-to.
Yeah, doing the book, I've used Fiverr for the book cover. Oh, we're not hearing you.
Did I get cut off again?
Yeah,
No, your video is just going slower than your audio, so we see you in slow-mo.
Okay.
But
we
hear you
we
just
see
fine.
you animated, but we don't hear the words coming out.
Okay.
Hillary is getting us today.
Oh God, don't get me started. Anyway, yeah. So unbelievable. There's so many things that people stop themselves, ways they stop themselves. And you just described a way very often people stop themselves from even taking the first step. You know, it's like, just find one person to talk to who can help you do this one thing and see where that goes. You don't have to talk to 10 people, just talk to one. And if it's not that person, maybe there's somebody else who does something similar, who does it better or does it in a way, and always make sure that you connect with them, that they're people that you feel comfortable working with, and people who understand, you know, how to work with an ADHD person if they don't have it themselves. I tend to find people with ADHD to work with because we get each other. My virtual assistant works with quite a few coaches with ADHD, so she understands. She doesn't have it, but boy, does she get it. I'll say, I want to do this, this, and this, and she'll come up with like 3 ways to do each thing. She just gets it. I've never had anyone do that before. So those are the kinds of people that we need. We need people that really can be patient enough with us and not get insulted if we don't respond in a way that's, you know, as long as we're not, I'm always saying thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a big thing I've learned to say over and over again to people that I really appreciate. I'm working with an ADHD editor and a young woman who is a graphic artist who's doing all the Canva for the book. She's putting the whole thing into Canva. And she's done all for years. She was my client, and she's like a brilliant Canva artist, I call her. And she's done all of the documents that I use that are visual and content created, graphic. And she puts instructions in with graphics that she comes up with and makes it interesting and fun. And I don't know what I'd do without her. She's just amazing at what she does. And she has the ADHD brain, so she gets how we stay connected with reading material, right? Yeah. And that's why in the book, every single page is going to have color and is going to be broken down in that way. Every single page. So I'm yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to find out more about this book that you've got coming out. But before we do, I really wanted to kind of echo what you were saying earlier, because it really just kind of hit home for me with, you know, I don't think that work should be hard, but it should be challenging. It should help you grow. And you know, should challenge us intellectually and emotionally and socially in some way that leads to a positive growth. And I really love that. You know, thinking about this podcast a year ago, you know, JJ and I were on a call, and, you know, I, again, in this career transition of, you know, I had taken a break away during COVID to stay at home with the family and the newborn and think about a career change. And once the little one started going back to school, I said, okay, well, time to go back to work at the studio, you know, and got a job. And it didn't last long because we had a whole bunch of health conditions and diagnosis and evaluations and lupus and MS come into our house and kind of disrupt our lives. And I couldn't keep up with the demand of needing to, you know, fulfill my attendance at work and needing to fill my attendance for the ER visits and urgent care and doctor visits and all the evaluations that were going on. So, you know, hard choices needed to be met. And, you know, we went in another direction. And, you know, talking with a lot of my coaches and JJ here of what's next, you know, people would say, man, go into coaching. You're so good at talking and thinking about this stuff. And at that time, I thought, I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing. I have no experience for that. That seems too, quote unquote, hard, right? And, we've been doing this journey for a year now, and it is hard, but in the most challenging and fulfilling ways. Going into not knowing how to do any of this, and still every day it's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing with this guest today. I don't know how I'm going to help a man, live a more fulfilling life today. But through curiosity, through getting to know each individual client, person, dad, man, human being, there's a story there that is just dying to be extracted if the right questions are asked. And all of these tools that we've been learning from experts like you and coaches and therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists and advocates and people with ADHD and autism and this and that and all these people that we talk to, we have such this great toolbox full of questions to ask people and our kids to help them figure out what the tools that they need are. And I just really love that because it's been such a fulfilling process, and I don't have to have it figured out. I don't need to be an expert. All I need to do is just open myself up and lend myself to people's experiences and their perspectives of the world, and the opportunity and the moment of growth and the tools that will help get them there will present themselves.
And clearly you're having fun doing it.
Exactly, man.
Look at how much fun you're having. Look at how
Exactly.
excited you are when you talk about it. Seriously.
So I'm just really, I'm loving what you're saying, and I'm totally an advocate for it and believing that, find the thing. Find the thing that brings you alive.
Well, more than one thing. There's generally more than one thing. It's not just one thing. Yeah.
So just thank you for coming on and dedicating this and giving us all of these really great advice and resources. And where can our listeners find you? How can they reach out to you or, contact you if they're interested in what you do or asking you questions to find out more about this?
So I do the Your Next Career Move Masterclass, which is an 8-week class where we go through this process, and it's coaching, interactive, and lessons, teaching. So it's pretty dynamic class, and I only take 6 people at a time, so we're already booked up through November pretty much. But anyway, if people are interested, they can contact me at www.careercoachingwithshell.com, and you can complete go to the masterclass page. There, it should take you to the masterclass page, and you can read the testimonials of people that have taken things like that. And the reason the book is a compilation of everything that I've done for the past 13 years, and redone basically for ADHD adults, and it takes you through the same process, only my version of it. So on the front it says, "Navigate your next career move step by step, inspired by Richard Bolles, author of What Color Is Your Parachute." So I give credit; he's got to get the credit for the process. I've tweaked it and revamped it, and it looks completely different from my ADHD brain perspective. So the book is called A Course for ADHD Adults and Teens, Unlock Your Career Path. And it's literally what I do in the class. It's got most of everything that I use in the class in terms of the graphic documents that we share and things like that, and the step-by-step that we use to get through it. And my goal is for this to be global, because there's people all over the world with ADHD, and I work with them. They're in the class. I have people from all over the world. And so I want it to eventually be translated into a few languages, but most of all, I want people to See it as a literal course that they can take and work with other people, like in small groups, and do piece by piece by piece. Talk about what's going on, network with each other, use the information to just expand what's possible out there and break things down in a way that they can really start taking this information and seeing, building confidence, their confidence in knowing that something is out there. So there are steps that they can take. And it doesn't have to be a 180. It can be a slow turn, right? And it should be as well. It shouldn't be just jumping directly into something else unless you're really looking to go into something completely different, in which case you would need training for the most part. Most people need training. And so you can build up to it through an internship or just get a little bit of experience before you go out and do that new, completely different thing, which is how I did what I do. So yeah, that's my goal with the book, is to really have it be kind of a tool that I leave as a legacy, because you never know when you're going to go, right?
Well, I love this. I think that this is an invaluable resource for a lot of people out there. Wish I had this as I was navigating my career journey through Hollyweird out here, and all of the ups and downs and burner jobs that I did. Yeah. So I know that I definitely could have benefited from this, and I hope that our listeners will get a lot out of your resources. Yeah. Which, not to worry, guys, I will keep all of Shell's information in the show notes for you. So if you missed any of that, you can go there and click on her links, check out her book, her website, some of the podcasts that she's been on, and that workbook, and all of her resources. So I have to say, I hope that people reach out to you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. I just wanted to let you know that the book is not launched yet. The cover is launched, so you know what it is, but the book will be launched in December.
December, all right. And what is the name of this book?
A Course for ADHD Adults and Teens, Unlock Your Career Path.
Wonderful. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Well, guys, please go check that out. Check out Shell. Reach out to her. Get that advice if you need. Because, man, like I said, this could have helped me so much.
I always get that. Where were you when I was like a teenager? Yeah.
But thank you, Shell, for dedicating your time, coming on here, sharing all this. This was a wonderful talk, and really, really just appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And thank you guys for listening, for tuning in. I hope you got a lot out of today, and we look forward to hearing you next week. So until then, I'm your host, CJ.
Hey, I'm JJ.
And we'll catch you next time on the ADHDads.